Darius Riley of UCLA in 21, Dylan Wilbur of UCLA in 22, Ryan Johnson of Air Force in 23, Jason Intravia of PDC in 24, and Daniel Matone of Washington in 27. And we did it. We got through them all before they started. Brought them back. Hopefully not a false start.
We got a full house.
Try again.
Full house here.
And we had another little spill there you saw, and I'm a little surprised they didn't call that one back, actually, because normally when there's any sort of scuffle in the first 100 meters or so, we'll see the starter call that back. But it's a beautiful night, as we mentioned here, under the lights. Sure, the fans, you know, we're missing that a little bit. We're missing some of that excitement. We're maybe missing a number of teams that might normally be here, but it's a cool, brisk night, and I think that these guys are really going to appreciate it, as are the 10K guys, of course, later this evening. But mid-50s, clear, still air, and just a beautiful night here on the Stanford track.
Yeah, that was Callum Bolger, actually, of Stanford, that went down at the start. So, I mean, he's a key part of that Stanford crew. I expect to see him at the front of this race, you know, or at least in that front pack. They're about 30 point at 200 meters. So they got out well, and you see Sprout tucked right in there in third.
And Jason Intravia, Cole Sprout.
So that's Matan, I believe, at the front there for Washington.
I believe so as well.
Matan's you know, from a great running family. Mom was a great runner. Both his parents were. His brother and sister were All-Americans at Oregon. So he's kind of continuing the tradition.
His brother broke 4 in high school.
That's right.
If I'm not mistaken. So
Cam was high in Oregon.
So you see them starting to string out here as Daniel Matone is leading the way.
He's checking his watch. He may be a pacer. We'll see if they have him in there. But considering that Washington doesn't have anybody else in the race, you know,
he might be going after it. So for
this is you know, what I love seeing in here from Stanford is and we talked a little bit about it earlier in the show, but just their young crop of distance runners for Ricardo Santos at Stanford. They've got so many, you know, really nice young pieces, freshmen, redshirt freshmen, sophomores in this race. Cole Sprout, kind of the leader of that crew, as we see there in third right now. And Sprout, you know, has had one of the great high school careers ever out of the state of Colorado, maybe the most decorated Colorado high schooler ever. Last year as a senior ran 4:02 and 8:40, 7-time state champ. And he hasn't missed a beat, stepped right in here and already having a great college career.
Well, and that'll be a budding rivalry, if you will, with Cruz Culpepper, who we mentioned. I should say budding, a continuation of that rivalry, as Culpepper, of course, coming from the state of Colorado as well. And another very well pedigreed young runner here is Cruz Culpepper. We don't have him in this race, unfortunately. We would love to see him from that Washington crew, but just so much young talent here in the Pac-12. And it's just going to be really great to see as they continue to string out here in the 5K. It's still Matone up front.
Matone's been clipping off 65s up there in the front. So they're, you know, on 13:45, 13:40, low 13:40 pace early on here.
And that's Sprout followed by his teammate Devin Hart there in third and fourth. So, of course, just as we did in the women's race, we'll keep an eye kind of on those 2, 3, 4 places. But it's still a front pack. About 10 runners there up front. El Sandali, not one to count out either. We mentioned the cross-country All-American from Iona. He competes internationally for Canada and had a great junior career for them, set their indoor 5K national under-20 record. It's a mouthful, but quite an accomplishment for El Sandali, so can't count him out there in the yellow of Iona.
Another 76 for Matons. So as they came by here
66.
by the finish. I'm sorry, 66 as they came by the finish. So we get that 1600 split right at 425.
Bit of split screen technology there as you see Matone in that full pack. Again, it's about 10 runners, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 exactly. Just making sure my math is correct there. If it was any more, I would have had to take off my shoes to start counting the rest of them. But Matone just looking pretty smooth and comfortable up front, kind of with that similar stride to Matt.
Yeah, keeping it right at that 1350 pace. They're looking good. Cole Sprout looks real comfortable. Hart right behind him looking good for Stanford. Stanford's got 5 in that front pack, and then the 2 that we talked about from Iona as well.
That's Intravia for the PDC there in second in the white jersey. They're starting to bunch up a little bit more as we see Sprout in third and Hart kind of on his outside heel there. But like you said, I'm not counting out the Iona duo just yet. El Sandali seems to be in a pretty comfortable position. Matone going wide, so most likely the pacer, as we might have thought. It's a little tougher to tell from that angle, but head on, you can tell he's going wide. So there is Intravia. Now again, if the other races proved anything, we think that he may be a pacer as well, but we will find out, and it's still going to be an interesting race either way, as we've got 9 now left in this front pack.
So there you go, Sprout, Hart, Principe, Boyden, and Robinson. Those guys are all freshmen or sophomores for Coach Santos here at Stanford. What a good young crop he's got. And they all played a role in their cross-country season this fall.
7 laps to go now. The front pack is 30 meters or so gapped to that chase pack, which is still pretty bunched up, which I am sure will start stringing out here shortly with 7 laps to go. I might give them 2 or 3 more laps before they really start to string out and create some separation. But it's still Intravia up front leading the way, and that Stanford crew just perfectly paced behind him.
Yeah, so 66 on that last lap.
As he steps off now.
Yeah, as Intravia's off, so now it's Sprout.
It's going according to form, really the last couple races have, as we've seen hip number 1, Donahue taking the women's 5K, and we see now hip number 1, Cole Sprout. Of course, it is far from over here, as you've got El Sandali chasing him there in second, and Hart as well. Quite the Stanford contingent, and at this point, it's still anybody's race here coming into 6 to go.
And that's Matt Leach kind of on the back of that pack. He runs for that Peninsula Distance crew. He's a great runner at USF, a Brit. He's actually run 13:53. He's kind of hit the roads more, run some half marathons and marathons, but he's hanging in there at right around what would be PR pace for him right now. So in there with the Stanford and the Iona crew up there in that lead pack. But Sprout doing some work here at the front, which is interesting that he's just kind of putting it on the more experienced El Sandali.
Yeah, with 2 pacers, I would have thought they might have gone a little bit further, if I'm being honest, but it's no time like the present for the young buck to kind of figure out how to take control of a race when you've got the target on your back there. El Sandali looking pretty comfortable in second. They're in the yellow of Iona, and still it's Hart. So 1, 2, 3 running 1, 2, 3, and then behind them it's DJ Principe.
So they're going to be like low 15 pace. That second group is kind of knocking on the door of 14 flat as well. And, that's kind of important we talked about that NCAA list, getting in the top 32. That's usually going to hover right around 14 flat in terms of a top 32 spot. So that second pack, their NCAA qualifier chasing going on in that second pack a little bit, with that lead pack maybe hunting down maybe a sub 1350 run today.
Well, and that's exactly it. We have to start thinking in terms of top 32 instead of the higher numbers, right? We have to see what those top 32 marks are. So it's still Cole Sprout coming through. And now a little bit of a move on the outside, I believe, is that.
That's Matt Leach kind of sliding up in the white.
The white from the back. I think that might be Hart coming up for Stanford, trying to move past El Sandali there. Still waiting on his hip, so not getting boxed in.
Hart ran
still in a good position for El Sandali.
Hart ran 14 flat indoors last year as a number 3 all-time Stanford freshman time indoors. So, I mean, he was ready to go last spring when the rug kind of got pulled out from everybody. So, I mean, he's a guy you got to think that had he run outdoors might have been you know, a 13:45, 13:50 guy. So fun to see him kind of getting a shot here. But Sprout just doing the work. The baby, the freshman, kind of leading the way for everybody here. And he's doing, that last lap was 67 flat. So it slowed just a little bit. And you can see them all bunching up. I mean, that's indicative of the bunch up. And here, I think that's Hart now moving up.
So that's Hart moving up into the lead, actually, for Stanford, going past Sprout. And with 4 to go, you wonder if it's just every man for himself or if there's a little bit of strategy there, some team running from the Stanford Cardinal. Cole Sprout still looks pretty comfortable, and still El Sandali in 3rd.
And that's Boyden, another true frosh for Stanford, kind of sliding up into the shoulder of El Sandali. Boyden is one of the most decorated Utah athletes ever. I mean, this freshman crew that Coach Santos got is so good.
There's Leach now, as you mentioned, in the white, moving up with that kind of ungainly arm motion, but he's making a strong move there into kind of joint 2nd place. So currently we've got Devin Hart in the lead, Cole Sprout and Leach pushing for that 2nd position. And don't count out El Sandali as well as his teammate D'Souza.
Hart's really pressing. You can tell he's kind of committed at this point and really trying to string this group out if he can. Keeping it on a 66 for that last lap for Hart.
.67 last lap, as you said. So Hart there in the front, Cole Sprout, and it looks like Boyden making a move as well, as Leach is now settled in and kind of tucked. Well, it might be a green singlet. Look white to me, a little white and green.
Leach actually ran a marathon at that marathon project in December. I think he ran 2:17. So here's a guy who, you know, just a couple months ago is doing marathon training and able to kind of step on the track here and running right around at 13:45 pace.
So now things are heating up. 2 laps to go. They've been bunched up this whole way. It was 10, then 9, now 8 after losing the pacemaker. So nobody has dropped off from this front pack. And we will see if Hart can hang on. And they're bunching up again. I think Sprout, the question is, what is the experience like for Sprout? Does he have the wherewithal to finish this race off? You mentioned the experienced El Sandali of Iona. Again, they were both cross-country All-Americans just a few weeks ago. Don't count out Leach, running unattached there in the white and green. And everybody's still in it at this point.
And we got a little fragment on that chase pack. There's a group of 3 that's kind of separated a bit. And they are, you know, humming along at just kind of right at that 14 flat pace.
Sprout back into the lead. Hart fading as his teammate goes past him. That's Boyden there with number 8. So it's Sprout and Boyden going into the bell lap. Stanford runs 1, 2, 3, but El Sandali is stalking.
Sprout's moving well, and look at Boyden right with him. Those are 2 true frosh for Stanford.
Breaking away, it's Cole Sprout.
And Leach now going to 3rd.
And Leach trying to make a move, trying to keep that gap closed. El Sandali is going to have to make a move past Leach there, and he does.
This is impressive running for the 2 freshmen from Stanford, Sprout and Boyden. Sandali's coming.
El Sandali closing that gap. It's not over yet. Top 2 haven't made enough of a gap on El Sandali there in the yellow of Iona, running very confidently as Sprout is trying to pull this away from El Sandali and his teammate Boyden. Sprout in the lead, the freshman. El Sandali pumping his arms here in the yellow of Iona in this home stretch. The final meters, Cole Sprout pouring it on and putting an exclamation point on this victory. 13:43.95 for Cole Sprout, the freshman, absolutely taking charge there in the final laps and showing that he's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
58 flat for Sprout to close. El Sandali 58 as well. I mean, especially with the work that Sprout did earlier to still kind of come back and run 57 on that last lap. That's some great running. All those guys, those are PRs up front for the top 4. D, that's, I believe, a PR for D as well.
Second fastest in the nation right now.
These guys are ready to run.
For Sprout.
It's a PR for Hart, lifetime best for everybody in that top group.
And you can see the joy there on Sprout's face. He's happy with that, and with so few options over the last year or so to race, and just the confusion of everything, to come out here as a freshman after being All-American cross country, to come out here, open up your outdoor season with a really strong debut, 13:43.92. You got to be happy if you're Cole Sprout. You got to be happy if you're Stanford distance coach.
Yeah, I think Coach Santos has got to be happy with 5 guys at 13:51 or faster, a 6 there, Bolger at 13:54. But hey, Thomas Boyden might have been the most surprising run in that race at 13:45, a true freshman, and he's kind of been lost in the mix of all, the Cole Sprout and some of these other freshmen that Stanford has. But that is an outstanding run for Boyden.
Closing in 60 point.
Yeah, the 60 point for him, and he almost, kind of was right there. They were separating a little bit from El Sandali, but he showed some, some real grit there to kind of bring them back and close well. But the future is bright for the Cardinal.
Stanford now sitting at 1-2 on the Pac-12 list, and as I mentioned, that mark for Sprout puts him at number 2 so far in the country, behind only Yared Naguse of Notre Dame, of course, the multiple-time All-American and overall just well-decorated athlete.
Yeah.
He actually won the 800 here a couple of years ago, last time we had this meet in 2019, in a great race. So there's your men's 5,000. Stanford really putting their stamp on this event on their home track, and Cole Sprout walking away with the victory. Impressive time, number 2 in the nation as of now, 13:43.92. And quite a race there for our penultimate event on the track. We'll go ahead and take a quick break here on FloTrack at the Stanford Invite, and we will be back for the 10,000 meters after this.
Scheduled to have a field of 15.